Acts 2:42 mentions that in the early church, they were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. So today, my wife and I will be breaking bread together. You ready to break bread, baby?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm your host, LaShawn Relaford, also known as Chef Shone, and this is my lovely wife, Misa, and you're watching Chat and Chew on New Bethel KCTV. Welcome to Chat and Chew. On today's show, my wife and I are going to be making a dish that is known throughout America and beyond. We are going to make spaghetti.
Yes.
Yes. So around here, around these parts, we love spaghetti. I know it's an Italian dish, comes from Italy and all those good places, but in our communities growing up, it was the dish that brought the family together during dinner time at the dinner table. Spaghetti is like a one-pot meal all in itself.
Yes.
So I know my wife is big on eating together and things of that matter, you know, and all that good stuff.
And coming from a large family, that was one of our favorite growing up. You know, if you guys don't know, I come from a family of 15, and one-pot meals were like the #1 dish. So spaghetti was like #1 on the list. So
we ate spaghetti with fish. We ate spaghetti by itself. It was a side dish. It was a main dish. So spaghetti brings the family together. So we're going to get started here. You see, we have quite a few ingredients out. For myself, spaghetti is a dish that you can kind of make your own and tailor it the way that you want, but I like vegetables. And if there's a way to get vegetables to your children, spaghetti is the way. You can hide it in the sauce and all of that good stuff. So we're going to get started. I like bell pepper. We have the orange, the yellow, and the red bell pepper. All of that stuff, these are sweet. So they add a nice little flavor to your dish. So we're going to get started. You do the pepper and I'll do the onion. And I'm going to look at this because while we're cutting all of that together, we could put our noodles on, but I don't like my noodles to overcook, so once I get my meat on, that's when I put my noodles on so that it'll all end together. So let's get started.
And
be careful with the knives.
I always want to know how you want. Do you want them long? You want them cut down small?
I want them diced.
All right. You know, you always have to get Chef Shone's permission on how he likes it. He want to see his vegetables. So
I do want to see. If I can't see your vegetables in your spaghetti, then it's probably SpaghettiOs. So let's get started. I'm going to cut up about half the onion here. A good way to cut your onion, I like to cut all of that bottom off, cut my half, set my half to the side, and we're going to just set this over to the side, and then I'm going to empty all of that good stuff off. Let me get rid of that.
See, that onion's a lot of work. I'll stick to the bell pepper.
And I keep getting distracted because I'm watching her cut just to make sure she's cutting the right size. Look at that right there.
See, see, it's hard being in the kitchen with a chef, you know.
So let's get dicing up. She's gonna cut here. So while we're cutting, Misa, do you think we have as a nation, or I guess even in our culture, different cultures, have we left the foundation of eating together? And
absolutely.
Why do you think that is?
And I think, I would say yes, definitely, just because with the hustle and bustle of everything, just reflecting on my childhood and growing up, I can remember my mom being a stay-at-home mother and being able to prepare dinner so that when, you know, daddy came home, the food was ready. And you know, with the hustle, with now in the 21st century, it's like the wife has to go out and work, and when she comes home, it's, you know, hop to it, jump to it. The kids are, you know, out for some families that have kiddos that are in sports and everything like that. They have to go to rehearsal or practice or sports, being athletes, you're going out and doing all these things. And so everybody's grabbing and going, and there's no time to really sit around the table to, you know, catch up and see what's going on in daily life. So yes, we have lost that in this time. I like, again, all the different colors in my spaghetti. Hey, the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to the one that endures. And I'm enduring.
You are enduring to the end.
Right.
So while she's doing that, and she's cutting that up, I'm gonna get my skillet here going, get it warm so that when I drop that meat in there, we are going to have some cooking action going on. So I'm just gonna turn it to about medium high, just a little bit there so it can get nice and warm. And the meat that I like to use in my spaghetti, where I come from, a lot of people use hamburger meat. And, you know, hamburger meat is all right. But if you're going to go to Italy, you got to use some Italian sausage. So I like to mix my meats. I like a mild Italian, a sweet Italian, and then I like hamburger or beef in there as well. You can put whatever meats that you want in your spaghetti. You can even do ground chicken, ground turkey, and still have spaghetti, because spaghetti is really the noodle. We call it the dish, but the noodle is spaghetti. And I even found out in a little bit of my research that the spaghetti sauce is really, a lot of the Italians call it gravy. It's like a gravy. It's like a gravy. So I'm like, okay, well, you mix your spaghetti with the gravy and we call it spaghetti. So let's get started. I am going to put my meat, I don't know if you guys got a good shot of all this good meat. I'm going to put that. This is the mild Italian. This is the sweet Italian, and this is the beef. We're going to drop that in the skillet and get it going. But first, what I like to do is to drop my vegetables first and get them going. So let's do that first. I'm still waiting on my peppers.
And I'm getting them.
She's coming along.
They're coming.
And she's getting it together.
There we go.
All right. Get all that goodness off of that knife. Yeah, there you go. This is why she said, this is why cooking with you is pretty difficult. Because I'm always giving some type of instruction. Look at that. See that one right there? That's food.
We have to catch it. Okay, we call it. There we go.
So I like to get this started first. I'm putting mine in a dry skillet. I know a lot of people don't do that, but because I'm going to add meat to that skillet, and that meat has fat in it, it's going to produce some oil. So I don't want to put oil on top of oil, so I'm going to drop that in a dry skillet. And that skillet is not really that hot. You didn't hear nothing, did you?
No.
Well, we're going to get it hot. That's when you control the flame.
And even as with the vegetables, for the friends and people that are vegetarian and don't like meat as much, spaghetti is a great option to use as well.
It really is. It really is. You can do a meatless spaghetti. I like to put zucchini in my spaghetti and squash, and you know, my mother is not one of those ones that like those particular vegetables in her spaghetti, but if you're a vegetarian, you can go as far as putting even diced eggplant and things like that in your spaghetti.
The meaty mushrooms that you use.
Portobello.
Yeah,
Portobello mushrooms, which will go in my spaghetti because I love mushrooms. It'll go in there today, but and we'll get to that. As you can see, I am an onion person. I like a lot of onion because I think they make great flavor in your dish. And another little nugget for those out there, if you cook onion long enough, they turn into gravy. In some African dishes, that whole base of the dish is all onion, and then they cook down and they turn into a good gravy. That's Chef Shone's nugget for the day. So let's get started on cooking this together. Let me get these onion in there with that.
Yes.
They'll all cook together.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys can get that. And we're going to get that all cooking and get that all mixed in together and let that cook a bit. Thank you. Thank you so kindly, wife.
I'm a great assistant.
She's a great cook. Don't let her fool you. She can cook. Gravies and stuff like that, I struggle with sometimes, so I have to call my wife and say, can you make this gravy? Can you do this? Can you do that? She always say, you always want me to do the hard work.
Yeah, the chitlins and pick the greens and the hog maw. No.
Right. So let's once we get that meat in there, then we'll put those noodles in there. And when you're starting your water, for your noodles. You always want to salt your water. My water is already salted. That's your only chance that you really get to flavor your noodles. So if you don't put any salt in it, the actual noodle itself doesn't have any flavor. So we salt it and we put a little vegetable oil in the water so that the noodles do not stick together. All right? So we're getting that started. That's going to be going. So we're going to talk about just some things about being together as a family and as it relates to God, because even in the scriptures, the church is styled as the bride of Christ. That denotes family as well. So I think family is extremely important, not only just in society, period, but I think family is important in the church. And I think the greatest attack right now is not on Donald Trump. That ain't the greatest attack. The greatest attack is not even on the church per se. It's on family.
Yes.
I think the enemy is his goal. He knows that if he can break up the family unit, he can break up the church and he can break up the community, because family is the basis of both of those things.
Absolutely. I agree. Even as Bishop had made reference of how the enemy tries to use and divide the family, so a person does not know who they are. They don't know where they come from. They don't have any foundation of who they are. So the enemy tries to, he really takes advantage of those moments where you have families that are not coming together and eating and breaking bread together, as the Word of God states, for us to come together and to that builds unity and strength, and it helps the children know who they are and where they come from and their history. And so it's when the enemy divides the family and make us so busy. It makes us busy with work and sports and getting the kids involved with so much, but never having that time around the table. I oftentimes, graduating from Southeast, and we had the round table where you come together and you sit down and you talk about the hard stuff. And so oftentimes a lot of the hard issues can be dealt with right at the kitchen table if families just pay attention to the tactics of the enemy and how he uses those moments of separation and division. And so, it's the family's job, as well as, the school and the church's job, to reinforce and reiterate the importance of togetherness and breaking bread, having dinner on Sundays and throughout the week.
Let me tell you, when we first got married, I would wake up in the morning and it would be that big old slice of ham with that bone in the middle of it. It was a big old, a big slice of ham with that bone. She would fry pork chops in the morning with eggs and all of those types of things. And I am the opposite. I'm not a big breakfast person. I'm going to get up and eat a bowl of cereal, some corn flakes, or something like that. You can add some hamburger meat to that too as well. We are helpers one to the other.
Right.
So where I may lack, she'll pick it up, and where she lacks, I'll pick it up. And that's what makes things come together as a family unit. So I like to cook. So I do a lot of the cooking. I'll say I probably do about 90.
Yes. Like 95% of the cooking, and I'll do like cleaning. And don't get me wrong, we are not perfect. There are times where he's like, "Hey, I cook, you can clean." So there are moments where
that is it right there. If I'm doing the cooking, you got to do the cleaning. She's like, "You always leave a mess in the kitchen."
A mess. Do y'all remember that commercial where the mother went in there to bake cookies, and she came out and there was flour all over her face? Literally, the kitchen is in a disarray. There's flour and gravy and juices, and what was that? It's like, what is going on? When I cook, I clean as I go. But the good old Chef Shone, there is so much left to clean and cook and do. But it's always so much fun, and it's a great opportunity for us to just catch up on each other's day and what's going on in our headspace and how we can plan. Some of our greatest conversations and resolutions have come right here in our kitchen, because it's one of his favorite spots to be. So I don't mind that, and every chance I get, I really take advantage of that.
And I think that's important too, while I get my beautiful spaghetti noodles together. I think it's quite important that you learn as a couple and as a family where each other's best place is in the house. If you want to have a conversation with me, come in the kitchen with me while I'm cooking and we can have a wonderful conversation. Somebody else, it may, hey, be in the living room or sitting down on the side of the bed, but find out what works for your person. For our children, every space works
Anywhere.
for them.
Yes.
They will come in the bedroom, they'll knock on the door, they'll in the living room, it does not matter. So we talk to them throughout the whole household. So let's get these noodles in this pot. Now me, I put this, I don't know what the official name is, we call it a strainer.
Yes.
Some people call it something else, but I don't know what that is. But I think it's important for you to get a real good noodle. Look at that. That is a beautiful spaghetti noodle. And you get a good quality noodle and put it in your water, and those will boil down. I like my noodles al dente, which means I don't like them overcooked, because if you overcook them, they become mush, and I like to actually have a little bit of chew to my noodles. So we're gonna get these noodles in this water while my wife gives that meat a good stir.
I can do that.
Again, I put some, look at that. I put some oil in the water to keep that from sticking together. And it's important that you have a good sauce as well, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. But I got to season my meat. That includes some basil, some oregano, some rosemary, parsley, and sweet basil is all in that. And I'm going to add a little bit of minced garlic to my meat. I love garlic, and in Italian food, there's a lot of garlic there. You don't want to add this when I added my vegetables because the garlic will burn, and if it burns, it tastes really, really bitter. So we want to add it in the middle of the cooking process. That's ready?
Yes.
We're going to drain that spaghetti. I can pull this out and it strains on its own. But because it's hot, I'm going to sit it there and allow it to strain. To drain. I said strain.
It's okay, I got you.
That southernness comes out. Y'all hear that? That southernness. But anyway, we're going to let that drain, and I'm going to pour all that goodness right on over those noodles and allow it to strain there and drain out into the disposal there. Now, you have a choice. You can either drop these noodles in an ice bath and stop them from cooking, and you can do your sauce, your meat sauce, on the side. And you know, in some cultures, in some houses, they'll take the noodles, put it on the plate, scoop the meat sauce on the top. Yes. You can do it that way. But where I'm from, spaghetti is a one-pot meal. Yes. So the noodles are all in the pot together. And luckily for me, in the summertime, when there's a lot of tomatoes and things like that, we love going to the city market and getting vegetables and spending time down there. So you can get tomatoes for very cheap. And what I like to do is to make my own sauces. You can make salsa, spaghetti sauce, marinara sauce, all of those things ahead of time, and that way when you get ready to use them in the winter, they're already jarred up. You've already canned them, and you don't have to go through that process. Some people like their spaghetti kind of dry. Yeah. You know, and with the meat and kind of dry, a little sauce.
Every so often, I like, when I make my spaghetti, I like that very thing. I like the noodles on the bottom, and then make the meatballs and the sauce in a separate pan and take and scoop it on top of the noodles, the base of it, and then just kind of eat the noodles along with the sauce or the meatball. I like that sometimes too.
For me, I like it all mixed in together. So let's get this on the stove. We're going to turn that one off because it's hot. As you can see, I also turned the oven on to 350 because I'm getting ready to put in my garlic bread. Yes. So we're going to do that. I may make it on top of the stove. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, we'll both.
But anyway,
whichever route you decide to go.
So I'm going to come around here, and what I like to do is to put a little meat in there. By a little, I mean a lot. I add my meat first, And I'll leave a little bit on the side because if you make too much meat, this meat makes a good sloppy joe.
Yes.
So you take that leftover meat and when the kids get tired of spaghetti, you take that leftover meat and make a good sloppy joe with it. I put that on. I'm going to turn my eye on. And then I take my sauce. As you can see, that's a good sauce. Pureed tomatoes. All in there, blended all together. It's cooked. So we're going to...
And I like when it has time to sit. In my opinion, things like spaghetti and chili and things like that, after it sits and marinates, it's better to me. I just love it.
We're going to get all that good sauce in there. And I'm going to get this fork here. And we're going to mix all of that in. And that's going to simmer a while. I like to add diced tomatoes to mine, as well as mushrooms. Nothing like some good portobello mushrooms in your spaghetti. So this is going to toast just fine. We're going to put that in the oven there. I hope y'all didn't get the inside of that. But yes, we're going to put that in the oven there and let that toast while this wonderful spaghetti is simmering.
Yes.
As you can see, somebody bring something over here. This is simmering together. This is the way you want your spaghetti.
Finally, I'm ready to dig in. I'm ready to taste it.
This is the final product. And as you can see, we have our garlic bread on there. Got a little Parmesan cheese, some fresh sweet basil. That's a bigger leaf. I like that, but I'll take that off. Fresh basil. And we're going to dig in and taste it and see how good it really is.
Yes.
Nice and meaty, full of vegetables, full of goodness and grace and mercy, have all found their way in this dish. You know, I want some mushrooms.
Get some fresh basil in there. Mmm.
That's her favorite part.
I want to cut it. I'm ready to cut my noodle. I need that good old spoon to cut the noodle. Maybe I should have get a taster's bite instead of a I'm hungry bite. Right. What you think? Oh, he's still chewing.
He was there all the time. It is strong delicious.
I'm sorry.
I love it. It is really good. She's struggling.
I'm struggling.
She normally likes to cut her noodles. That's probably what it is. She likes to cut her noodles. I left them long because they look good that way. So there you have it. Chef Shone and his dear wife Messia. Spaghetti, family style. What do? You can put that in a big dish, set it on the table. Everybody sit around the table with your garlic bread and a nice salad.
Yes.
And everybody dig in straight from the table.
Bon appetit.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed your time with us here on Chat and Chew. Keep up with all of our newest videos from New Bethel KC TV by simply clicking the subscribe button below. Be sure to like and share all of our content. Until next time, be encouraged. God bless.